Want a lightweight DHCP server in Proxmox LXC is the solution. For my pen testing lab, I've got an isolated network set up. Here I destroy and create VMs all the time, and to avoid the hassle of assigning IP addresses manually, I need a DHCP server to do it for me. But there's no reason to run a full VM for a DHCP server, so I'm just going to use a Linux container. If you're using VirtualBox or VMware, you can still follow this tutorial, just skip the first bit. To get started in Proxmox, click Create CT. Now we've got some options. First, we should set the host name and set a password. Make sure it's something you can remember. Now for the template, I recommend using Debian. Debian is simple and lightweight. Next, as this is a DHCP server, you won't need much space, so I'm just going to leave it at 8 GB. Again, DHCP server, 1 CPU is fine. Now RAM's a tricky one. For RAM, I'm just going to set it to 100 MB. I have never seen this go above 100 MB. I've been running one for about 6 months now for the rest of my network, and it just doesn't go that high. Now we're at an important bit. We're going to want to start with this connected to the internet, as we'll have to install the DHCP server software, and then we'll move it over to the isolated network. So I'm going to have it assign its IP addresses through DHCP. Since this is in my testing environment, I'm actually going to write down the password just so I don't forget it. There's a notes section on old Proxmox machines. Here I can type in root, and then a little reminder of the super secure password I'm using, just so I don't forget it. Now over to the console. Let's log in with our username and our password. First, we need to install the DHCP server software. To do that, apt install isc-dhcp-server. Yes, we would like to install it. Don't worry about it failing, it's supposed to do that. Now we need to put it back on the isolated network. To do that, head over to the Network tab, select your network adapter, edit, and bring it over to the isolated network. And this time, we need to set a static IP. I'm going to set it to 10.0.0.2/24, and the gateway, if you're using an isolated network, just set it to the first one. We will need to reboot the machine now, so head back over to the console, log in, and type reboot. Let's start configuring things. Log back in again now that it's rebooted, and type IPA. This will tell us what interface we're going to use for our DHCP server. In this case, I'll be using F0. Next up, we need to edit the config file. For that, I'm going to use VI as my editor, etc default isc-dhcp-server. If you press tab, it can auto-complete things for you when writing out locations. Now right down at the bottom, interfaces v4, specify the interface, F0 in my case, save that, and now we'll need to configure DHCP. This time, open isc-dhcp-server conf for short. The first thing we'll need to do is set some global options. The option domain name is used to set what the fully qualified domain for devices on your LAN is. I'm going to change this to just example.lan. Next is option domain name servers. This is what devices on your LAN will use for DNS. I'm just going to change this to Google's DNS servers. Now, while you may think that this is completely unnecessary because it's an isolated network, if you ever practice DNS poisoning or anything of the likes in your pen testing lab, this can be quite helpful. Default lease time and max lease time are fine as they are. Now travel all the way to the end. I want my LAN on the 10 range. So to start, I'm going to set subnet to 10.0.0.0 with a net mask of 255.255.255.0 and open up the curly brace. Take a new line and tab in. To specify the range of IP addresses we want to hand out. I want the first 10 to be reserved for me, so I'm just going to start it off at 10. This is so that I can use it for things like my Kali machine and this server. Remember to end the line with the semicolon, new line, new tab. Now we set what subnet mask to use for the network. Option, subnet mask, 255.255.255.0, semicolon, new line, tab. Finally, we're going to set the IP address of our router. Option, routers, 10.0.0.1. New line. If you're using an isolated network, just set this to the DHCP server, but because I'm doing it for a pen testing lab, it can be useful to point it to a real IP address. Remember to close off the line with your curly braces and save the file. Let's test our config file with the command dhcp-d-t. Oops. Looks like I've made an error. Semicolon expected on line 8. Let's just have a quick look in the file. When I set this line, I forgot to add a semicolon on the end. Save that. Test again. Brilliant. Everything looks good now. Let's start the DHCP server service. First, we need to end it with service isc-dhcp-server stop, and then start. Let's just clear the screen to make everything nice and clean. I've got some Windows machines on this network that have been waiting to get a DHCP lease. You can see what leases have been issued with the command dhcp lease list. Brilliant! We can see that my Windows XP, Vista, and Windows 7 machine have all managed to get IP addresses. Now there's a working DHCP server on the network. You've been watching Cut Computing, Cutting Complexity, Constantly Curious. Today was all about getting a DHCP server running inside a Proxmox LXC, but that's just one way of doing it. If you've tried another approach or discovered a neat trick along the way, let me know in the comments. I'm always curious to learn. Thanks for watching. Until next time.